What's up, YouTubers and plant lovers? It's Justin coming to you from the Big Blue Nation once again. And today I was going to show you how to transplant a Monstera deliciosa. You ever had one of those feelings that you may be biting off more than you can chew? That's kind of how I feel about transplanting this guy. As you can see, he is in desperate need of a new pot. I got him not too long ago and stuck him outside and his roots really took off. Funny thing, he's in this little big plastic pot and I had him sitting out there for maybe about 2 months and I kept meaning to repot it, but time flies by and you know, here we are. So anyways, it took off. It's been doing really well in the position that I had it outside. And now I just need to go ahead and take it out of its pot and put it in this new one. Now, I've got the new pot and it's about a 10-inch pot. I think that might even be a little too small, but we will see. Now, they say that the monsteras are a vining plant native to the jungles or rainforest of southern Mexico and Central America. So first and foremost, this is a vining plant. The common name for it is the split-leaf philodendron. Now that is just because it is a cousin of the philodendron. I think it's really related to it. The reason why they call it the split-leaf philodendron is because of the way it looks and then its vining tendencies. So it's not really related to the philodendron. But it is a vining plant and it will need something to kind of climb up on. So they say that the best thing is for like a moss pole, something like some chicken wire, you can tuck moss into it. I haven't really had time to do anything like that, so I just went to Lowe's, got me a piece of lumber, and just in case you're wondering, if you ever want any kind of lumber to put in that's safe for a plant, make sure it has HT on it. Now that means it's heat treated, they've just dried it out. Now I suppose there are some lumber that could be heat treated and have some chemicals in it as well, so just kind of smell it a little bit, and if it just has been heat treated, it'll smell kind of outdoorsy and have a pleasant little odor to it. And if it's been treated by any kind of chemicals at all, it will have kind of an oily base smell to it. So you should be able to tell by smell, by look. I mean, you can tell that this is mostly just wood. I don't think anything else is in here with it. It did say HT on it, so I know it is heat treated. And I've used this before too, so I know this really well. And I will stick this down in here, put a bunch of soil in there, and we will put him down in there as well. Now, the kind of substrate that I'm going to use for this challenge, I'm going to be using about 4 parts quick draining succulent cacti citrus soil like Miracle-Gro or Fox Farm to 1 part peat moss, and then I put in another about 1 part organic kind of raised bed gardening soil in there too, just because I do like a lot of organic material to kind of digest and break down over time, but not a whole lot. And like I said, they do like kind of alkaline-ish soils a little bit, so the peat moss will help with that. So just make sure that you do have some peat moss in there. And in general, all-purpose Fox Farm substrate is really good for this plant. So I have mixed all this up already in there to my own likings. And I just wanted to tell you about what I did with that. We will go from there. And the very first thing I need to do is cut this plant out of its plastic crypt, because it will kill the plant unless I get it out relatively soon. Now, hopefully you won't ever have a plant that's been this root bound. So if you do, always soak the pot and water the plant really well, and then it won't be as hard to kind of get out there. Now, I've watered this plant twice, and it doesn't look like it's helped me in the least. Now don't be afraid, you will cut some roots, that is a given. As long as you don't destroy all of them, you are fine. You can remember that you are allowed to destroy or cut up to about 3/4 of the plant's roots without actually hurting the plant. So you do have a little bit of leeway, not much. Woo! It was way more root bound than I thought. I will show you in just a minute. Look how bad that was. Desperate need to get these roots out. Now in this case you do have kind of the fibrous subterranean roots versus your kind of really thick fleshy aerial roots too. Now it is safe to remove some of these, either the aerial roots, and it is safe to remove the fibrous kind of ones that are under the ground too. And grab something to make this a little bit easier. Alright, now I couldn't find my root rake, so I guess I'll just be doing this by hand. And really, it's not that hard, just as long as, like I said, you've saturated your substrate. Make sure it is relatively wet. It's easier to work with. And now remember, there are several reasons why plants have roots. Mainly it's to anchor the plant down, and then to help them find substrate, soil, and nutrition, and then water as well. And if roots are really balled up and compacted and constricted and everything, they're not going to be able to anchor the plant down, and they're definitely not going to be able to kind of search around and look for water and nutrients. So you do want to kind of loosen the root ball up. Some people will just take a plant out and then set the whole root ball down in the soil. That's just kind of up to you. I mean, like, if you feel like messing with it and fooling with it, you can. If not, and your plant doesn't survive, well, I told you so. Now, like I said, just kind of work your fingers in there really loosely. Don't pull and be too hard with it. Have some mercy. Sit back and relax, because it's going to take a little bit. And definitely keep a trash can under you, because you're going to make a mess. And then once you get a majority of it kind of loosened up, and you take your fingers and just kind of rub them in there. If you do have nails, it does kind of help kind of knock the dirt out of the way a little bit. So just kind of work your fingers in there ever so gently. Don't be so rough. You're trying to separate the roots, not murder them. Now, with me, I'm not going to be able to get this whole root ball, but I just want to get a majority of these roots loosened up, and then I will prune them back some so that they have plenty of room to grow out and around in this new pot. So if I were to stick all these big, fibrous, hunky roots in there, it really wouldn't leave too much room for the plant, and I would probably have to repot it next year. Now, as it stands, I probably already will have to repot it next year. Like I said, the area I put it in is really good for this Monstera. They like kind of bright shade. I would say maybe an hour or two of direct sunlight a day, maybe, just depending on how strong your sunlight is. But other than that, they do like a good amount of water. They are from the rainforest, tropical areas, but sitting in water, like saturated soils, all day will kind of choke them out, or drown them rather. So they do not like to be in substrate that holds a lot of water. So make sure that your substrate that you do use does have some sand in it to help it drain. And again, if you're going to be adding your own mixture and you want to add sand into it, use builder's sand. They tend to actually wash that a little bit more to get most of the bad products, like the silt and everything, out of there. So that's been washed a couple of times more to make it a little bit more valuable for the homes and buildings. But like I was saying, builder's sand is pretty good for plants. Alright, I think I'm getting just about to where I want to stop with the root ball. And then I'll take my pruning shears, which I have sanitized. And I even sanitized these scissors too, because I knew that pot was so tight against the roots that I would probably actually nick the plant. And you never really know. If you're gonna cut something, especially something that's alive, you want to make sure it is clean, because if you do nick it, you won't be mixing any other kind of thing in their bacteria or anything otherwise that could kill whatever you're cutting with. So I always sanitize anything that's going to rub up against the roots or the plant at all, especially if it has the tendency of nicking it or cutting it, like scissors or pruning shears, root rakes, anything like that. This is almost kind of therapeutic. You can start pulling roots out and see how they're tied in with other roots and just kind of untie them, and it's relaxing. And I think here outside it's raining now, so it feels really relaxing. Like I said, if you just kind of work your fingers up in there gently, you'll knock a lot of the soil out, and the roots will kind of follow suit. So take your time, not in any race, and the root ball is gradually diminishing, so I know we are heading in the right direction. I know my Monstera is going to be very happy and greatly appreciate this, so that's why I'm doing it, because he looks really good and I don't want to lose him just because I was too lazy to repot him. So give it a little bit of love, and that's really all I need. Like I said, these guys aren't too fussy. They like bright and direct shade. You gotta figure they grow up trees in the canopies. So they're usually under the ground, but they will grow up a tree and kind of find their way to a light source. So they do like some bright light, but not a whole lot, just a little bit. Maybe like an hour or two at the most of direct sunlight a day, and then the rest kind of bright shade. And they do like water, but make sure your pot has a drainage hole in there, at least one good one, so that any kind of water that it doesn't use will just kind of run out the pot and it won't drown. Okay, now I'm going to take my pruning shears and just start cutting. And remember, with the kind of fibrous subterranean roots, you will just kind of remove up to about 3/4 of that without hurting the plant. So cut away with those. And then the aerial roots, a lot of people say that they just cut theirs off. I don't really do that. I will let mine grow, but right now I'm going to cut some of it back just to kind of give it more room. I guess I did kind of do this backwards. I should have had the pot on the Lazy Susan so I could turn it as I go. As I said, it's not gardening unless you kind of make a mess. And then as you add your substrate, make sure you compact it some. That way that it does push it down in there through the roots. Because if not, you'll just kind of set the substrate on top of the roots. And then you'll leave a lot of air bubbles in there. And that is really not good for your plant or for the roots. And it works kind of the same way as gardening. You know, as you put something in the ground, you do want to kind of compact it some, tamp it down, to rid yourself of the air bubbles in there with the roots. Now, the aerial roots, you do not have to cover those with soil, so make sure that you can kind of tell the difference, because if you bury them, it can kind of hurt them. Now, obviously, some substrate's not going to kill it, but don't feel like you have to cover up all the roots. Now, truth be told, this probably won't be the pole that I use for it to support itself on. It might be, I'm not for sure. Just depends on how lazy I feel in the future, how much I'm working. But the good thing about this guy is it's pretty thick, so I can kind of pull him out and hopefully I can slide something else kind of down in there. I'll let you know how that goes. I know that probably won't work how I want it to, but as I say, you live and you learn. And kind of work your way in around the plant and around the stems in there, and make sure you kind of compact it. And then to further make sure that you've gotten rid of all your air bubbles, I will take this out and hose it down, water it, and that should remove any other air bubbles that I wasn't able to remove myself. Alright, now let's give them a little once over to make sure that everything looks good and is in place. All the leaves look well. I don't see any webs indicative of any spider mites, and I don't see any kind of bugs on there or any gnawholes on any of the leaves, so I think this guy is doing fairly well in the position that I had him in outside. Again, so now that I'm done, I will just take him out, hose him off, give him adequate water, make sure it comes out the bottom of the drainage hole. That way you know that all of the roots have been pretty much soaked. Roots that have not been soaked for several months will begin to die off, and that will be really bad for your plant and maybe even kill it. So make sure that when you do water your plant, water is coming through the drainage hole, and you do not have a saucer or anything underneath there to hold the water in. As I said, the water needs to be able to run freely out. The roots on a Monstera will drown or choke out if you have a whole lot of water in there, if it's very waterlogged. So make sure it's able to kind of run away once the plant's drunk up all that it needs. Now, with this substrate that I've used, it's supposed to feed the plant for a couple of months. Now, I won't be fertilizing this guy for the rest of the summer, maybe not even the rest of the year. So if I do, I will update you on that and let you know how it goes. But Monsteras, they do like kind of a general all-purpose houseplant fertilizer. Any Miracle-Gro or Fox Farm will do the trick. And I usually dilute that by half just to make sure it is safe for the Monstera. But other than that, that's really all I know. I'm transplanting these guys. Like I said, it will make a mess and it will take a little bit of time. But these plants are great plants to have. They're really beautiful and unique plants, and they get rather large. And anybody that knows me knows that I do like plants on the larger side. So leave me a comment and let me know if you've got any questions or any kind of concerns, and let me know how your Monsteras are turning out. This is my second one. My other one is a baby Monstera. This is definitely my largest one. So let me know if you have any questions or concerns. And while you're at it, hit the subscribe button or the bell next to it. That way you'll know anytime I've uploaded a new videos. Take it easy, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, always plant prudently. Thank you, YouTube.